Welcome to Muse Art Consultancy Homeschool Art Sessions. This week I'm going to be talking you through how to create a biro drawing of a flower and leaves that accompany it. So the first thing that you'd need to do is find some flowers that you'd like to work with and use the internet to find some inspiration of biro drawings that you like. And before we move in with the biro drawing, I'd like you to think about words, like keywords that you could add to your page first. So the keywords that you've learned throughout the last few weeks with me: tone, form, observation, illustration, composition. And I'd like you to use different fonts and different colours to add those words neatly to your page. Again, thinking about building a composition. When I say that, I mean maybe not having words of the same colour next to each other or the same fonts next to each other. Just being mindful about how we lay our page out. The next thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to be thinking about where you can fill your page with illustration to complete the composition. And to do that, you're going to be thinking about negative space. Negative space, as you can see here, are basically spaces that are between your main focal points. So your main drawings, illustrations, images. Negative space is the space that just isn't being used on your page. And this is where I would like you to pull through some illustrations of flowers and of leaves to tie the composition together and limit the negative space that we have. Now, when you're initially drawing on your flowers and your leaves, you're going to be using a biro, which can be quite daunting because when you're using a biro, you're really committing to where you want something to be. Because when you're using a pencil, if you press really lightly, you'll get a much lighter line. If you press hard, you'll get a deeper line, and you can rub the line out. With biro, you can alter the tone, the depth of the pen that comes out, however, not dramatically. So you do have to commit to where you want things to go. It is quite daunting, but go with it because it's a hugely beneficial confidence building tool. So once you have drawn all of your outlines, you're going to start doing something called cross-hatching to build tone and shadows in your work. Cross-hatching is something that you may have done before without even realising it, and you may be completely aware of what it is. And for those of you who aren't aware what cross-hatching is, I want you to think of a hashtag. You basically have lots of lines going in one direction and lots of lines going in the other direction, crossing each other, creating a hashtag, and lots of little right angles. And that's how we layer with lines, or one of the ways that we layer with lines to create tone. The more cross-hatching layers we add, the deeper the tone. The fewer hatching or cross-hatching layers we add, the lighter the tone that we're creating with our biro. So this flower up here that you can see, I've been adding cross-hatching and hatching to on the leaves. So have a little think. If cross-hatching are lines going both ways and overlapping each other, what do you think hatching would be? What do you think hatching would be? So hatching is actually when you have lines just going in one direction as opposed to overlapping in both. Now on this leaf I'm going to show you another technique. If you look at the nib of my pen, you'll hopefully see that it's going around in little circles. Lots of little circles and tiny little patterns there. That technique is called scumbling. It's effectively a posh way of saying scribbling, but we're being really mindful about the size of our pen strokes, and we are being very controlled with how we are adding that to the page. Now you can see maybe on the top part of my leaf I drew on the shape slightly wrong. Now that's absolutely fine when you do this with biro. Even though you can't rub out the mistake, you can still draw over the top of it to hide lines that shouldn't be there, and more than likely you're the only person who would recognize that. Somebody else looking at your drawing, if you cover it up, effectively won't actually see. So do not worry too much about that. As with any observational drawing, when you are drawing, do keep looking at the leaf you're drawing from. Look at where the light source is, look at where the shadows fall, and try to draw what you can see as accurately as you can. As soon as you can get into the habit of doing that, it's a really, really lifelong beneficial habit to have when it comes to observational drawing, learning to observe. So here, if you can see what I'm doing with my pen, it's something slightly different to what you've already seen. I'm just going across in one direction across my leaf. I'm creating a smooth tonal, uniformed tonal base for this petal, similarly with the leaf just next to it. I am wanting to create it, I wanted it to be slightly darker than the other petals, so I've given it a once over with the pen just to create a little bit of tone that I can then start adding details to afterwards. And on here I'm using a selection of hatching, scumbling, and where I'm adding those refined details once I've added that afterwards. Biros, a lot of people love working with biros. Some people find it extremely daunting working with biros. I'm going to be doing some really fun projects after this one relating to how we can use biros in art, looking at patterns, Zentangles, mark making, building tone and building confidence whilst using them. And it's something that is so easy and cheap to use because everybody has a biro in the house, whether it's red or black or red, green, maybe. Everybody has access to one. And the art that you can create with them is actually quite astounding if you're shown how. So please have a little look at those videos next week, and I'm sure that we can create some really nice work together. Now back to looking at the flowers and the leaves here. You can see I'm starting to build the tone with the leaves slightly behind the flowers, just to give the illusion that they are slightly behind it. I could see on my flower that I was holding and in the image that I was working with, when something is behind something else, the petal here, the leaf, was just behind the petal of the flower, creating it ever so slightly darker on the inside where the leaf would underlap, really creates that depth and more realism. One other thing that I'd like you to think about when you're using biro are contour lines. Now, contour lines, the contours of something, effectively show the direction that the surface would move in. So my petal works from the inside out. From the inside out is the direction that it grows in, the direction that your eye is taken in when you look at your flower. So using lines to follow those contours work really effectively and make it look more realistic. And you might be thinking, how can it look more realistic? It's quite obviously a biro. Well, yes, it is. But if you look at very simplistic biro drawings, if they have nothing else, they will show you suggestions of the direction of the surface, these contour lines. They will show you a suggestion of the texture and a suggestion of the direction. So contour is something really, really effective to look at, because if I was to be doing my lines on here horizontally in the opposite way that I have done it, it just wouldn't look as effective. It wouldn't look as effective on that petal. Now my page is nearly complete with my biro filling up the background. I'm really happy with how the biro works in relation to the embedded paintings, the more bright paintings that we've worked with, and the typography that we've got moving through. Again, this is something you can always go back and work in if you want to add some more keywords. You really enjoyed a particular technique such as tonal drawing, or maybe the biro work, or you'd like to do some more embedding on your page. Please do experiment with that and try to create as full a composition as you can, because that's when it really becomes fun, creating these lovely, full, interesting, dynamic compositions. So this is my finished double page. I've really enjoyed sharing this with you, and I really look forward to sharing some more projects with you in the future. Please do look out for the next week's video, where we're going to be looking at biro work with a focus on Zentangles and patterns. I really look forward to seeing you there. Please do feel free to send in any photos of your completed work. I'd love to see them. Thank you very much again, and I hope you have enjoyed the project. Bye.